So if Jesus will suffer for us, he will suffer with us and suffer like us. If Jesus will suffer for us, he will suffer with us and suffer like us. The state of man will remain the same. If Jesus doesn't suffer, I feel Ghana close, suffer with us, he has to suffer with us and suffer for us. God said sin will bring death. You know, many have thought and even taught this death is the separation of man, the spirit of man from his body, and that is physical death. But that's not what God was talking about in Genesis chapter 2. Because in James 2:26, James says, for as the body without the spirit is dead, see that? And it is important to note that in the garden, man was yet in his body. See that? Even though he had died, he was yet in his body. If death passed upon him as spoken of in Genesis 2:16, he must have died just as God said. So that death that God says you shall surely die, remember after he had died, he was still speaking. He was still walking. So that death was not physical death. That death was a spiritual separation. A spiritual separation. When a man dies in the natural, he departs his body to exist elsewhere, either in heaven or hell. But he still exists. In the garden, man was separated from God. He left God's presence. And this is what death is.